The small countryside town of Willow Creek had always been quiet, but on that chilly autumn morning, the atmosphere felt heavier than usual. Ethan Carter stood on the porch of his aging farmhouse, holding his 8-year-old daughter, Lily, close to his chest. The funeral of his father, Samuel Carter, had ended only a few hours earlier. Friends and neighbors had already left, leaving behind flowers, memories, and a silence that seemed impossible to escape. Ethan stared across the dusty road, wondering how life could change so dramatically in a single week. His father had been his guide, his protector, and the only person who had helped him raise Lily after his wife passed away years before. Now, the old man was gone, and Ethan felt more alone than ever. As he stood lost in thought, the sound of an expensive black luxury car broke the silence. The vehicle slowly approached the farmhouse and stopped near the gate. Ethan frowned. Nobody in Willow Creek drove a car like that. The door opened, and a woman stepped out. She wore a simple yet elegant cream-colored suit. Her long brown hair moved gently in the breeze as she walked toward him. She looked confident, successful, and completely out of place in the small town. Ethan adjusted Lily in his arms and watched cautiously. The woman stopped a few feet away. For a moment, she lowered her head respectfully before speaking. "My father has died," she said softly. "But I came to pay his debt." Ethan stared at her in confusion. "I think you have the wrong house." The woman shook her head. "No. This is exactly where I need to be." Her name was Victoria Hayes, the CEO of one of the largest technology companies in the country. Ethan recognized the name immediately from magazines and television interviews. He couldn't understand why someone like her would be standing on his porch. "What debt?" Ethan asked. Victoria looked toward the old farmhouse and smiled sadly. "A debt my father carried in his heart for over 20 years. She reached into her purse and pulled out an old photograph. Ethan took it carefully. The picture showed a much younger Samuel Carter standing beside another man in front of a broken-down truck. "That's my father," Ethan said. Victoria nodded. "And the man beside him is my father, Richard Hayes." Ethan had never heard that name before. Victoria explained that more than 20 years earlier, Richard Hayes had been a struggling mechanic trying to support his family. One terrible winter night, he lost control of his truck during a storm and nearly froze to death on an isolated road. Samuel Carter found him, brought him home, gave him food, and allowed him to stay with his family for nearly 2 months. During that time, Samuel refused every attempt at repayment. "My father never forgot," Victoria said. "He always said that without Samuel Carter, I would never have had a future." Ethan listened quietly. Years later, Victoria continued, "My father built a successful company. He became wealthy. He wanted to find Samuel and repay him, but business kept pulling him away. He always said there would be time later." Her voice trembled. But later never came. Ethan could see genuine pain in her eyes. "3 months ago, my father became seriously ill," she said. "Before he passed away, he gave me one final request. He wanted me to find Samuel Carter and repay the kindness that saved our family." Ethan looked away. "I'm sorry, but my father is gone too." Victoria nodded sadly. "I know. I arrived too late." For several moments neither spoke. Then Victoria handed Ethan a sealed envelope. "What is this?" "My father's repayment." Ethan opened it carefully and nearly dropped it. Inside was a check worth $2 million. His eyes widened. "This must be a mistake." "It isn't," Victoria replied. "I can't accept this. My father would never forgive me if you didn't." Ethan shook his head repeatedly. "No. My father helped people because it was the right thing to do. He never expected money." Victoria smiled softly. "That's exactly why he deserves it." The conversation continued for nearly an hour. Ethan learned more about Richard Hayes and how often he spoke about Samuel Carter's generosity. Apparently, every major decision Richard made was inspired by the lesson Samuel had taught him: true success meant helping others. As the sun began to set, Victoria prepared to leave. Before entering her car, she paused. "There's one more thing." Ethan looked at her. My father wanted more than repayment. He wanted me to continue Samuel's legacy. What do you mean? Victoria handed him another document. It contained plans for a community center, scholarships for local children, and financial support for struggling families throughout Willow Creek. All funded by the Hayes Foundation, she explained. But I want your help leading it. Ethan was speechless. Why me? Because your father believed in people. And from what I've seen today, so do you. For the first time since Samuel's death, Ethan felt a small spark of hope. Over the next year, the project transformed the town. Children received educational opportunities they never dreamed possible. Families found support during difficult times. Local businesses flourished. And through it all, Ethan and Victoria worked side by side. They came from completely different worlds, yet they shared something powerful: gratitude for the men who had changed both their lives. One evening, as the new community center opened its doors, Ethan stood before a crowd and looked at the plaque hanging near the entrance. It read, "The Samuel Carter Community Center, built on kindness, gratitude, and second chances." Tears filled his eyes. His father had never been rich. He had never been famous. But one act of kindness had created a legacy greater than money could ever buy. And in that moment, Ethan finally understood something his father had always said. Good deeds never disappear. They simply travel farther than we can see. The crowd applauded as the doors officially opened. Above them, the evening sky glowed with golden light, and for the first time in a long while, Ethan felt peace. If you enjoyed this heartwarming story, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share the channel for more emotional stories about kindness, family, and life-changing second chances. Red Heart Open Book Sparkles.